It's 9 o'clock on Monday, August the 3rd, 2020, and I call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Ms. Hines? Here. Ms. Perkins?
Here.
Ms. Carr?
Here.
Mr. Wilson? Here. Ms. Hewitt?
Here.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move that to amend the agenda. The amendments and approval of agenda and the welcome to follow the pledge, the statement by the board member to follow the Pledge of Allegiance, so that we have the welcome and Pledge of Allegiance followed by the statement from the board member.
Second.
Okay, so the motion is to move the statement from a board member to the first item under the business portion of our agenda. The motion has been made and second. Vote?
Yes.
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 Okay, I want to welcome everyone here and everyone online to our special called meeting. The purpose of the meeting is to rescind the vote made at the July 30th, 2020 school board meeting. Specifically, the plan adopted calls for the reopening of elementary and middle schools with parent choice of either 100% virtual for the semester or an A/B hybrid model, and for the reopening of the high school with parent choice of either 100% virtual for the semester or temporary virtual learning for 9 weeks before revisiting in-person options at the end of the 9 weeks. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Perkins to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Okay, our first item for business is a statement from our school board member, Mr. Wilson.
Good morning. If you cannot hear me, I'd like to raise your hand.
Hold your mic down.
I don't think his mic is.
Where's muted? Testing.
There you go.
Is that better? First, I would like to thank all of you for coming to this very, very important bit of business we have to take care of this morning. All of the preparations that we have been made is on record, and I've been 100% to do what we need to do to try not to interrupt the actual learning process. Somehow or another in transforming, it might be this, I'm not making excuses. It might be actually the concern that you have, which is good. I am requesting this morning, while I have a chance, to have a situation that we can encapsulate all of the children, but I'm no ways shorthanded on trying to shorthand any student or employee in this county. With that being said, I would like an opportunity for this to rescind my vote and move further after rescission, the necessary things we need to do so that we can move on with the business as far as our parents, students, as well as the individuals in this community. I'm just asking I made a mistake. I'm just asking for your forgiveness, and I'm also asking you to know that it's no ways personal, no ways was I informed, or nobody twist my arm, but I just got a good, clear understanding of the motion. I want to make sure that the understanding I have is what the Hardy District representative is going to try my best to do for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. At this time, we will have a superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I have listened and read information throughout this process, my thoughts have shifted. I have believed from the start that it is imperative that we get our children back in school as soon as possible. The metrics used for this decision seem to be the biggest hurdle. With that said, I would like to start by stating that the board has considered the family's input and the teacher's input as one of the matrix to make their individual decisions. If you look at the continuum to reopen in person, which is on the slide, the in-person part of the continuum has traditional, and that's 5 days a week, blended AB, and temporarily remote if we need to close down for a time period. And above that, if you look at it, it identifies COVID-19 rates as one of the determining factors, with low rates being the possibility of opening 5 days a week as normal. In the middle, that blended model, and if there are high rates, a temporarily remote shutdown, which is what happened in the spring when the governor shut down the entire state. And it wasn't temporary, it became ongoing. On the other part of those options is 100% virtual for the entire semester. You have the opportunity, no matter what the vote today, to choose to keep your child in your home with 100% virtual learning. So this can be looked at in two ways. One is to look at the trend data for Isle of Wight County, or two, as the trend data for the region. I am not a medical doctor, and I do not claim to know what trend data is the best to use in the decision-making process for Isle of Wight. And I have heard differing opinions amongst medical professionals. Therefore, I do understand that our board has differing thoughts as to what to do when considering reopening, and I respect all of their individual voices. This is extremely difficult for all involved. I do know as an educator, another important metric is the mental well-being of our children and the tremendous gaps that this shutdown is creating for all children, but especially for at-risk learners, our pre-K through third graders who are learning the foundations of reading and math, and special needs students in intensive support needs assistant classrooms. A board member recently asked me, what metrics will we use to reopen? That question really prompted my thinking to another metric that many have seemed to have forgotten. It is the Recover, Redesign, Restart Plan, a comprehensive plan that moves Virginia learners and educators forward. This document outlines the recommendations for 3 phases for schools to reopen, which were created with input provided from hundreds of educators across the state with a wide spectrum of individual expertise. Throughout this Virginia of Education document, the committees followed the recommendations of the CDC guidelines in each phase of the plan. Phase 1 states that remote learning is still the dominant method of instruction, and school divisions may elect to provide in-person instruction for some students with disabilities through the IEP process. Therefore, schools would have to provide a totally remote learning environment until the state moves to the next phase. A temporary remote plan for all levels is in line with recommendations from Phase 1, which is when the governor shut down the state. We are currently in Phase 3. In Phase 2, the schools may offer limited in-person instruction to preschool through third grade and English language learner students, given the unique challenges of providing remote academic and physical emotional support to young learners and English language learners. In Phase 2, which we were briefly in, the state plan recognized the importance of having the pre-K through third grade children and the special needs students in intensive support needs classrooms having an option for an in-person environment with physical distancing and many of the mitigations that we have outlined previously in our Isle of Wight Return to School plan in our health plan. In Phase 3, which we are currently in, the document states that in-person instruction may be offered for all students. However, physical distancing measures should be implemented. In addition, remote learning exceptions and teleworking should be options for students and staff who are at high risk of severe illness as defined by the CDC. Mitigation strategies may impact operations and capacity limits. A multifaceted instructional approach may need to be planned for Phase 3. So physical distances is a concern with bringing back all students 5 days a week. Due to the size of the classrooms, we can fit an average of 12 students in each classroom with a distance of 6 feet. The plan that was approved on Thursday meets the guidelines in the Phase 3 reopening document, which includes a health plan and the mitigations in place. In addition to this, the current approved plan did allow an option for any family who did not feel the reopening plan was safe for their child. They could choose 100% virtual learning for the entire first semester for their child. The survey indicated that just under 40% of our families would choose this option. Therefore, these families' ability to choose has been satisfied by the current plan. The only families without a choice are the high school families in this plan. The major factor driving this part of the plan is that we cannot keep students in a cohort in high school, which will cause many students to be exposed to each other throughout the school day. And even with 50% of the population in school at one time, that would put 650 students in the hallways at Smithfield High School switching classes. When a case does occur, the contact tracing will be more difficult and the possibility of exposure is higher at the high school. Middle and elementary families would have a choice if they wanted to send their children in the AB blended model. It would be their decision in the current plan. I have heard many individuals say that they are fearful and that we don't know what will happen when we put children back in school. I think it is clear what will happen when we put children back in school, whether that is on September 8th or 9 weeks later. Data is clear. The more you put individuals together, some students will get sick and some staff will get sick. What we don't know yet is how the mitigations and physical distancing will work in a school setting. We currently do not have data from schools in the United States on how mitigations and physical distancing works. In other venues, if mitigations are followed, then fewer cases seem to occur. We have seen some successful child care providers, and there has been some data from other countries in which mitigations in schools have limited the number of cases. At the state level, which is currently in phase 3, we have seen individuals in places like the beaches and the bars where individuals have not physically distanced and spikes have occurred. This has caused the governor to pass new executive orders for certain areas of the state. Some have done very good, while others have not. This has caused the governor to move some of these areas backwards in numbers. He has not moved us out of phase 3, but moved some areas backwards in the numbers they are allowed in restaurants and to socially gather. Once we reopen our schools, we will work with our local health professionals as cases arise and make decisions about mitigations in place. We will be able to use this new information in our decision-making throughout the school year. Our continuum of in-person plans will allow the board to decide how the mitigations that we put in place are working at any given time and make timely decisions whether we move to a more open environment or move to a totally remote environment. I need a little break. The trend data, did you guys get the PowerPoint? Oh, Tracy, will you give them the PowerPoint? I'm sorry. You might need it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's hard to see up there, but board members have that in front of them. So the trend data that I've recently received from the Virginia Department of Emergency Management has us located in Region 5, which includes, if you can see up there, the counties of Accomack, Northampton, Chincoteague, the Northern Neck, which is Lancaster, Northumberland, Richmond County, Westmoreland, the middle, Gloucester, Matthews, and Middlesex, the peninsula, Hampton, James City, Newport News, Poquoson, Williamsburg, and York. Hampton Roads, Chesapeake, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Virginia Beach, and Southside, Franklin City, Isle of Wight, Southampton, Suffolk, and Surrey. So you see in this report, there's a large amount of counties involved in the Region 5 data. This is a graph from the Virginia Department of Emergency Management. Over the last 30 days, the daily COVID-19 cases in this region. That's a combined total for all the counties that I just mentioned. So if you can see the numbers, about 8 days ago, which is closer to the right-hand side of the graph, you see a spike at 718 cases. That was about 7 or 8 days ago. If you look at the most recent days, it bounces before 455, down to 289, back to 400. But if you look across, a lot of the daily cases are around 400 cases a day for the region. Isle of Wight County is trending just under 4 cases a day in the same time period of the last 8 days, and has been trending 5 cases a day during the entire month, and we are still in phase 3. This is a graph of the Isle of Wight County data for the last 30 days. And you see back about 16 days ago was our largest spike at 11 cases. And then you see a spike there around days 17 and 19. That's 8 and 9 and 9 cases. That was 26 cases over a weekend. That was a weekend. And then you see the daily cases at the beginning and end of that graph are right around the average of 5. You do see one dip on the 27th day, and that actually is a -1 case. So a confirmed case was taken off the books, and there were no cases on that day. So that is our Isle of Wight County data. So considering the metrics to use in the decision-making process, the state's 3-phase plan is the best defined matrix that we have without students in school. We do not have data with Virginia students in school. Once students are in school, the case data within each school will drive the decision-making from that point forward, which is why we have the continuum of in-person. With all this information in mind, the current approved plan is following Phase 3 recommendations with the extra caution at the high school level. I can't help but read the Recover, Redesign, and Restart document and focus on the word recover, which stands for the need to get students back in school and recover the achievement gaps caused by the closure, as well as addressing the mental and social well-being of our children. The word redesign, which has caused us to develop blended models like our AB blended model, which to me indicates that we still have to move carefully forward with physical distancing and other mitigations. The word restart, which provides the plans to move forward. If you look at the title of the plan, it says a comprehensive plan that moves Virginia learners and educators forward, and the forward is in all caps on the plan. The word forward is in all caps because the coronavirus is not going away anytime soon. We do know more about the disease, and we do know possible mitigations to slow the spread in our schools. I believe it is time to move forward now and address the outcomes together as a county and community. In closing, I would like to state that the current approved plan meets the needs of all families involved in the survey that believe 100% virtual education and meets a majority of families who wish to have some form of in-person education except for high school. And this would be reevaluated at the 9-week mark. I totally respect how each board member has voted and may vote in the future. I want to assure you and our families that my staff and I will implement your decision to the best of our ability to keep all mitigations in place and keep our students and staff safe. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Thornton. At this time, we need a motion to rescind the instructional plan for the reopening of schools.
I didn't hear what you said.
Pardon?
What did you say?
I said, at this time, we need a motion to rescind the instructional plan for reopening the schools.
You can't read anything until someone makes a motion.
Could we have the clerk to read that motion for me, please?
I can't hear you.
I can't hear you.
The clerk, I want it read.
You would like the clerk to read a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
I, Mr. Wilson, move.
Mr. Wilson, I would recommend that you read the motion, and then perhaps the clerk can read it again. But I think the motion should come from you for the record. So we know that you're the one who's making the motion.
Okay.
Excuse me. Trying to make sure that I have exactly what I want to have on this. Bottom line, I want 100% virtual.
So, Mr. Wilson, before that happens, you would have to make a motion to rescind the previous action.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion, move that the previous action be rescinded.
You would have to read the full motion that you gave us earlier.
I want to make sure that when I make my motion that it's already completely absorbed by the individuals that I'm voting for. I would like to
Madam
move.
Chair, can I request a 5-minute recess?
Okay, 5-minute recess. No audio? We're good? Okay, we're back in session. Mr. Wilson?
Okay. I would like to move that with all of the individuals in session, I would like to move that we accept rescinding the motion I made last week. Does that cover it? The previous motion, I'm trying to rescind this. This is very hard for me to, because I have feelings on both sides. but I move that we rescind the action that was taken for virtual learning.
I think you can read the whole motion,
Okay.
We just need a school board member to make, we just need the whole motion for the record, Mr. Wilson, so it's clear for the
Okay.
minutes.
I, Mr. Wilson, move that the school board vote to rescind the vote made on July the 30th, 2020, school board meeting regarding the adapted school reopening plan. Specifically, the previously adopted plan calls for the reopening of elementary and middle schools with parent choices of 100% virtual for the semester of the AB hybrid model, and for the reopening of the high school with parent choice of either 100% virtual for this semester, or in total remote environment for 9 weeks, before revisiting in-person options at the board of the 9 weeks.
Okay, a motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, I will say there is no need to repeat data for high risk when students are not in school. This has already been done. But I will emphasize, to rescind the adoption of this plan means we are saying no to parent choice. We're saying no to 64% of parents surveyed requesting some kind of in-person learning. To rescind the adoption of this plan means we are saying no to 60% of teachers surveyed requesting some kind of in-person learning. To rescind the adoption of this plan means we are saying this board knows what is best for the children, and we choose to disregard the will of the majority. Emotions are high. Emotions and opinions are extreme. The screams have come at each of us in all directions. Some say if we open schools, some will die, and that will be on us. Some say if we keep our doors closed, we will have the silent victims of child abuse on us. Some say if we close the doors, we are taking some children's safe place away from them. Some say if we keep doors closed, the depression, anxiety, and possible suicide of children will be on us. Parents have shared the tears that have been shed because of the children are having such difficult times learning remotely. Some say their internet is beyond challenging where they live. Hearts are so heavy with the weight of it all. And I and we want to do what is best for these precious children. I can't imagine voting for something that would put children in harm's way. The sad fact is, there is no real win. But this plan has those who choose virtual to have a chance to choose virtual. So we are now ready to cast our vote. The motion on the floor is to rescind the vote made at the July 30th, 2020 school board meeting regarding the adopted school reopening plan.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
So the adopted plan has been rescinded, and now we have reopening plan discussion.
Madam Chair, I have a recommendation for the board to consider before the next motion. First, I'd like to say I do not agree with statements that I have read that all teachers can deliver instruction virtually. I've been an educator for 32 years and a superintendent for 17 years. And I challenge anyone, including my colleagues, that think they can teach reading in a totally virtual setting with pre-K through third grade students. Therefore, it is my recommendation to reopen with an A-B blended model for pre-K through third grade students and special needs students in intensive support needs classrooms in the division. Grades 4 through 12 would be temporary remote for the first 9 weeks, and a 100% virtual model for the entire first semester is still an option for all families. That is the recommendations in the Recover Plan from the state of Virginia for Phase 2. We are in Phase 3. A total virtual setting for all students is Phase 1. The state is not in Phase 1. So that is my recommendation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I have a question. Can I ask a question about his
Yes.
plan? So if we would be only doing K-3, would there be a way to spread them out more? Like, since Hardy is a 4 through 6 school, would there be a way to spread, because I don't know how many kids are going virtual yet. We don't know where they're specifically going virtual, what schools, and what percentages per grade. If we would need to, would we be able to take some kids from Hardy or Carrollton and move them, or even Windsor, or depends on where they are, and move them to some of the other schools that wouldn't be open at that time?
If we need to do that for mitigation strategies, we would be able to do that during that 9-week period.
What is the most you would see in a classroom in that? What is your cap for those classrooms?
So already in pre-K through grade 3, it depends on Title I funding, but there is no classroom in pre-K through 3 that is larger than 12. So if everyone decided to come back, then the most you would have in a classroom is 12 students. And we have set up, our principals have set up desks and/or tables within those classrooms, and they can fit 12 students in that classroom environment. And I think you bring up a good point. If there are classrooms, say at Carrollton, Hardy, wherever, that becomes a challenge, yes, like this facility could be used as well.
Madam Chair, I have a question for Dr. Thornton. Dr. Thornton, I know when the county had the summer school program for a limited number of students, around 50 maybe. Can you hear me?
No, I'm having trouble, I'm sorry.
Okay. When the county had summer school for a limited amount of students, I think around 50 students, and it was held at Windsor Elementary School. And I guess we all know Windsor Elementary is one of the newer buildings in our county at this time. I understand those classes were held in the section, in the classrooms that had private restrooms in them. Am I correct?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. And so therefore, that's about what, 10 classrooms at Windsor Elementary with restrooms in them?
That's probably right.
Okay. And they did not have any incidents this summer so far. School just let out last week, we don't know, but right now they did not have any incidents. And they had a good plan going forward as far as separating the students, the 6 feet. They also, when the students came to that program, I understand the students were not allowed to bring anything with them but themselves. All of their materials that they were going to need for their instructional needs were supplied for them, and it stayed within their individual instructional area. When they went out for recess, they were not allowed to play on the playground equipment for any activities because of lack of staff cleaning it between each class going out. So that was another way we were able to keep those students at a distance. So I'm saying that to say this, that was about 50 students. And I'm going to ask you as the superintendent, because you're the one that's heading the program of instructions. Do you think if we bring the K, will give the parents a choice of bringing K-3 back to school? Do you think your staff will be able to keep them pretty much in a safe environment like you kept the 50 students this summer at Windsor Elementary School?
I do think Windsor Elementary School demonstrated that our educators and professionals understand. They went through training before we opened summer school, and they understand the mitigations and worked hard to do that. I do think when we come back, all of our educators will do that. They'll all be trained, and they will have to do that. And I guess I'm going to state again, that's going to happen whether we open September 8th or 9 weeks after that date.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion with that? Okay.
Madam Chair, I move to reopen an AB blended model for pre-K through third grade students and special needs students and intensive support needs classrooms in the division. Grades 4 through 12 would be temporarily remote for the first 9 weeks. A 100% virtual model for the first semester is an option for all families.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Mrs. Perkins, could you read that motion again, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Bring the mic a little
Your
closer
mouth
to
in the
you.
mic.
Yes. To reopen an A-B blended model for pre-K through third grade students and special needs students and intensive support needs classrooms in the division. Grades 4 through 12 would be temporarily remote for the first 9 weeks. A 100% virtual model for the first semester is an option for all families.
I will second that. Any discussion?
I'd like to have some discussion first.
I'm sorry.
So I just want to,
Yeah, we're open for discussion now. A motion has been made, and it's second, so we have discussion.
so I mean, I really do want what's safest for all kids, and I think we all do, and we all have different ideas on how to do that, and I'm not.
Talk in the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I apologize. I think we all want what's best for kids. We all have different ideas on what that is. You know, I do go back and forth because I know the value of in-person education. I mean, I have a struggling student myself, and I know that in-person education is better than not. But I also see the reports of schools that have started to open, or summer camps that have opened, where they've had 250 or 260 cases of the 300 people who were in the camp, and they were following CDC guidelines. I think one of the only exceptions was they couldn't open windows. Well, we can't open windows either. It's hard because there's a lot of unknowns. We don't know how many kids are going to be in those classrooms going forward. We don't know how many kids are going to be in those classrooms. It could be 5 kids in a classroom, and then there's no muss, no fuss. It could be 12 in a classroom, and then that becomes a bit more problematic. I'm just putting out there that for me, it tears me into pieces because I don't know. I mean, either way, my kids are going virtual. I have that option and so this isn't for me. I've gotten a lot of community members, older ones, who are worried about community spread. Some of our most vulnerable community members who were not given a chance to partake in any survey, but have reached out to me with concerns of community spread. teachers who have reached out to me, who have, like we said before, we can't promise that every teacher who has an immune issue or has a valid reason for not wanting to go back to school cannot go back to school. So I'm still weighing options right now, and that's what's the most difficult about this. We were bombarded with many emails this weekend and the weeks prior, and mine were very mixed. I didn't have just one. You know, everyone wrote, "Represent me." Well, when you have a split, you can't represent everyone equally. And so that is the most difficult piece of this. I'm listening. I read every email. I did have trouble responding this week because I was working all weekend. But that's just my thoughts on this at this point. I'm going to need a couple minutes to kind of soak in everything. So I'm going to request a vote. Not
Okay,
right
well, we have a motion and we have a second. And any more discussion?
Madam Chair, I would just like to thank all of the citizens that emailed me this weekend as well. And just as Mrs. Hewlett said, it was half-half. And I would like to also thank those that stayed professional, very professional with their emails. Some of my emails were not professional. They were little, but I guess being a public official, I accept that as well. But I would like to thank all of the parents or citizens that emailed and kept it very professional. I wish all of you would have, sitting out there before us today, had an opportunity to sit here where we are. It's not easy to make this choice that we have to make again today. But the only thing I'm sure my colleagues, we all trying to do is what's best for the children in Isle of Wight County. The children and the staff of Isle of Wight County Public Schools will always be our first priority, their health and their safety. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make one or two comments. I believe this plan provides everyone with the opportunity to provide their children with the kind of education that they feel comfortable with. If they feel more comfortable with a virtual method, that option is available. If they feel more comfortable with their children in a classroom environment with small numbers and social distancing, then the AB hybrid model is a very valid option. So I would highly recommend that you consider this as a plan forward for Isle of Wight County.
I heard Dr. Thornton loud and clear when he was talking about the recover, redesign, and restart. And I'm just thinking what he said, and we know this virus is not going away anytime soon. So when will we restart? With this new option, it reflects the one we left with Thursday, but it takes a step backward in we're taking a baby step instead of what was a giant step. But with this new motion, this new plan that's on the table, we will be operating on a recommended plan for phase 2, and we are in phase 3. So we're still being extra cautious as far as the guidelines that have been put forth. We know the importance of the education foundation in our grades pre-K through grade 3. That is the foundation. And if children are below grade level in reading at the end of grade 3, the challenges of the rest of their educational journey are extreme. We know what the surveys have said from the parents and the teachers. The vast majority say they want some kind of in-person learning. And what I keep hearing loud and clear is the medical experts share that the risk of children not being in school far outweigh children being in school. And the statistics that I got sent to me, even this morning, was those children who are in child abuse situations that are not being reported. Those cases are down, but it's not because they're safe. It's because the 28% of all cases that are reported are from teachers and bus drivers and administrators. So that is my ending comments for the motion that's on the table. Are we ready for a vote?
How many bus drivers would we be, I know a lot of our bus drivers are older. And there's not an endless supply of bus drivers out there. What is the situation with that, with this K-3?
So I would have to look at the numbers because I do know some of our bus drivers run dual routes, which means they run elementary and they also drive for middle and high. So it would give us some extra drivers than the total number that just do elementary. So we could have more buses than we traditionally do if we had opened all of the schools.
Would this plan afford for more of the teachers who did want to go virtual to be virtual? Or it would be still based on numbers of family, because you still have to see how many?
Right, it would still be based on the numbers, but now you'd be basing them on just the teachers certified pre-K through 3.
And there would be some teachers in that pre-K 3 who would just be virtual, correct?
Yes, if the numbers drive that, absolutely.
Madam Chair, I call for the question.
Pardon?
I call for the question.
You ready for
For
a
the
vote?
vote.
I'm going to come back to me.
Mr. Wilson?
Come back, please.
Ms. Carr?
Yes.
Ms. Perkins?
Yes.
Ms. Hines?
With the new motion that, I can't talk, I know. Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
I remain 100% virtual.
So the motion carries. The plan in
Ms.
place.
Carr, excuse me for a minute.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Wilson has to state his vote yes or no.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He said
So
100%
you have to say
virtual,
yes or
but-
no.
Yes, yes or no to the motion.
You said, did we say yes?
Is your vote yes or is your vote no?
100% virtual, yes.
All right, that's not the motion on the floor. The motion on the floor is,
Shall I read it?
read it again, please.
To reopen with an AB blended model for pre-K through third grade students and special needs students and intensive support needs classrooms in the division. Grades 4 through 12 would be temporarily remote for the first 9 weeks. 100% virtual model for the first semester is an option for all families.
So that, yes or no?
Yes is very similar to we're going back and forward. It's kind of hard for me to digest. That virtual,
Okay, you have to say yes or no, Mr. Wilson. Is your vote yes, you want to go with this, or no, you do not want to go with this?
Is that Virgil?
No.
It is not. All right, I'm going to read it again.
Yes.
Reopen with an A-B blended model for pre-K through third grade students and special needs students in intensive support needs classroom in the division. Grades 4 through 12 would be temporarily remote for the first 9 weeks. 100% virtual model for the first semester is an option for all families. Yes or no?
Yes.
He votes yes. So,
Madam Chair, may I add an addendum to that for CTE students?
Yes.
please.
I'd like to amend that to add CTE students to the AB blended model. Since we had full CTE teacher consent of coming back with that AB model, I would like to add that to the approved people who will be coming back to the schools.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion to include CTE on this as the AB blended model.
Yes.
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 Okay. Meeting is adjourned.